So of course, the Canelo haters. I'm not talking about people now who are who being objective and speaking about Canelo's deficiencies and about his trainer and stuff. The Canelo haters, the people who don't like Canelo. Okay, they just don't like him. Canelo haters have been having a field day because Canelo lost to Bevo. Never mind, these were the same people trashing Bevo. Now, do I think that Bevo was a cherry pick by Canelo and his team? Um, this is what I would say. He could have faced David Benavidez or Jamal Charlo. He chose to face uh, Dimitri Bivol, who would have been tethered to Gennady Golovkin fight. So a hard fight with an easy fight. That's what Canelo was going for instead of two tough fights back to back. I think it's mainly what would make the two fights tough back to back. Say Jamal Charlo versus and then David Benavidez is young, champions fighting each other. Whereas Triple G's he's old now and you can see his age, and in addition to that, he's slow. Right? He's slow. So Bivol was going to be a young, strong champion, but then and undefeated. And then Triple G would have been the older champion, veteran experience and all that, but smaller and slower. Versus two young, strong champions, undefeated, in their primes. You know, the more manageable route, in my opinion, would have been what he picked. Everybody would say that. Now, the one thing about it is, Canelo didn't realize, maybe, or his team didn't realize that he did not have certain abilities which would cost him the fight. And he obviously didn't work on those things. And he thought that this fight was going to be something like the Caleb Plant fight, or like the Billy Joe Saunders fight, or like the Callum Smith fight, where those champions, they had attributes which he could exploit. And in addition, it challenged him, but at the same time, they weren't a serious threat to him in terms of power. So Callum Smith he's a powerful guy, but the problem with Callum Smith is he needs to be throwing at the end of his punches. That's where his power is. But when you crowd him for space and you make him have to fight on the inside, now his power is gone and he's almost useless because he doesn't really have a great inside game. And even though Callum Smith had heads up that he might be the guy who Canelo would be facing next, and he had it for almost a year, it was really confirmed like 4 weeks before the fact. And Callum Smith probably was sitting down waiting or something. I don't know what he was doing, but he should have stayed ready. And if he stayed ready, this would not have been a problem. He would have had a camp. But anyway, he ended up facing Canelo, and he just fell short. He fell apart. Okay, but his style is just one in which Canelo can take advantage, because Canelo, his range of fighting is mid-range to inside fighting. So Canelo, take advantage of the situation. And then Callum Smith didn't look pretty good against John Ryder. So Canelo going after Callum Smith seemed to be the right time. Then, in addition to that, he then went on to face Yildirim, who we will not talk about. And then he went on to face Billy Joe Saunders. Saunders, again, had all the ingredients to beat a Canelo, except he lacked discipline. He lacked the ability to stay in shape. So I guess he had a weight camp instead of a training camp for Canelo. And his confidence was not high at all. He did not believe in his skills. He did not believe in his abilities. It took him up to 5 rounds within the fight for him to actually realize he could do something. And round 5 and round 6 he did something, but Canelo was taking back the momentum by the end of round 6 because Guess what? Billy Joe Saunders was gassing. He was breathing heavy because Canelo had invested to the body early in the fight. And so Canelo ended up getting him out of there. And then we had Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant, great defense. Canelo couldn't get past that defense for 10 rounds. Uh, Canelo was catching Caleb Plant's jab, holding it hyperextended, and then hooking underneath the jab to his spleen area. This was to deter Caleb Plant from throwing the jab, but it did not deter Caleb Plant from throwing the jab because the problem was that Canelo, even though he was putting leverage into his punch, it was still going to be an arm punch because when you hold a guy, you freeze a guy, you're kind of not stepping or anything. So even though he tried to get as much leverage as he could into the punch, it still wasn't. It was an arm punch, so it wasn't doing too much to Caleb Plant. Other than that, he really couldn't touch Caleb Plant throughout the fight. When Caleb Plant started to advance to him and Canelo got to counter Caleb Plant to the body, that was at the end of the 10th round, he hurt Caleb Plant with a body shot, which Caleb Plant felt all the way into the 11th round. Apparently, Caleb wasn't staying truly focused, and Canelo threw a leaping left hook that caught Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant reeled backwards, and then he dipped to protect himself, and Canelo split his guard and hit him with an uppercut. And from that moment onwards, even though Caleb Plant didn't fall directly onto the ground, he sort of propped himself up with his hands, so his knees didn't even touch the canvas. So you knew that Caleb Plant was all together. His strength and everything was there. He was just now was his equilibrium there. And what Caleb Plant did after that was he just popped all the way up and drifted across the ring. And that was because his equilibrium was off, showing lack of experience. And that one fatal mistake is what cost Caleb Plant the entire fight, right there and then. Now, the casual fan would say, Caleb's taking a lot of punishment from Canelo because you see Caleb Plant shell up and Canelo would throw a bunch of combinations on him. But most of those combinations would be deflected off of his arms, elbows as he ride and rolled punches. He even came back with counters on Canelo, kind of like what Floyd Mayweather was doing. When Canelo tried to throw a left hook, he would just counter him with a right hook or a right cross. So Caleb was doing his thing, and in my opinion, he was winning the fight. He got more confident as the fight went along, and in the 10th round, he was engaging with Canelo on the inside when Canelo landed that body shot on him. And that truly changed everything, I think. And in the 11th, Caleb Plant, he got slept. But my point being that all those guys had attributes to beat Canelo, but they couldn't optimize their attributes and skills. But the writing was on the wall. As Leonard Ellaby so correctly said, Canelo could be outboxed. He could be maneuvered. He could be outplayed. And even a guy with just a jab, like Caleb Plant, was giving him all kinds of problems. Canelo wanted to, at a certain point, was very frustrated in the fight, and Eddie Reynoso had to keep him calm. So what happened with Bivol is not surprising to me at all. And the fact that Bivol is such a master boxer, and that Bivol, if he doesn't want you to touch him at all, he just won't. You won't touch him. And I mean, in this fight, Canelo hardly touched Bivol, if he did touch him at all. Bivol did most of the touching. So, like I said, Canelo easily outboxed by Bivol. But the haters out there are going to say so many different things. They're going to say that, Bivol was a cherry pick. That, Canelo cherry picked most of the opponents that he faced, even though they were world champions. He didn't try to face Charlo. He didn't try to face Andre. He didn't try to face David Benavidez. And truthfully, we know that Canelo he had an opportunity to face Jamal Charlo at 160, and instead he went up to 175 and faced Sergey Kovalev. People say, well, how many fighters would go up to 175 and face Sergey Kovalev? Well, I would say, when you're the cash cow and when you got that kind of money, you could do that, right? You could do that, and that's what happened with Canelo. He could do a lot of things. He had a lot of options. Whereas Jamal Charlo didn't have those options. You know, he had to hold on to his belt. He had to figure out what's the right move for him. Uh, uh, Demetrius Andre didn't have those options. And I think Demetrius Andre is moving up to. He should have moved up to 168 right now. I think he had an arm injury or something, but he moved. He should have moved up to 168. He was supposed to face Zach Parker. I don't know if he's facing Zach Parker for the WBO 168-pound championship. That would be his third division moving up, and you can't say he's not taking risk, even though he's facing no-namers like Bevo, not as good as Bevo, but they no-namers. He is still trying to do something, so you can't knock him. And I think he wants to have a fight with David Benavidez, which is probably why he's left Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, and I think he's also kind of like on his own right now. He's probably trying to cross the pond to get that fight with David Benavidez, make that fight a reality. So that would make sense, and hopefully he can get it. But what I'm trying to say is Canelo jumped up to 175 to face Bivol. Now he was trying to make history. He said, he said he's testing his skills, he's testing his abilities. Eddie Hearn's trying to make the excuse that Canelo, he didn't have to do this, and he really didn't. He could have faced David Benavidez, who was the guy, the number one contender for his undisputed title. But he, again, chose not to face David Benavidez. And when we look at this, why are you not choosing to face David Benavidez is the question. And it's because he would have had to face David Benavidez, and then he would have had to face Jamal Charlo. Those would be two stiff fights, two big fights, but stiff fights back to back. And I think that's the reason. So he decided to go Bivol GGG route, and that backfired. Yeah. Now Bivol's clearly has proven that he is an excellent elite fighter. Okay, might not have been well known. I think the Charlo fight would have been much bigger because everybody knows Charlo, and the David Benavidez fight would have been huge. But he chose to go the route of Bivol, and he's possibly going to face Gennady Golovkin next. My thing is that haters are going to say, well, he ducked Charlo, he ducked Benavidez, ducked Andre. This is what happens when cherry picking goes wrong. Haters are right now going in on Eddie Reynoso. He's shit. They're going in on Canelo. All of Canelo, people who suck Canelo's balls. They say need to face boxing, and they're just tearing in on Canelo right now, and they're tearing in on Eddie Reynoso, and they're tearing in on anybody who liked him. Your favorite fighter that liked Canelo. Well, guess what? Jamal Charlo likes Canelo. Demetrius Andre likes Canelo. David Benavidez likes Canelo. What are you really saying? You dig what I'm saying? Errol Spence. I don't know if he says anything about Canelo. But Errol would be honored to face Canelo. So Clarissa Shields, she liked Canelo. All right? There's a lot of people who like Canelo. There's nothing wrong with liking Canelo. All right? And if you are in the business and in the sport of boxing, there's a lot you can learn from Canelo. Gervonta Davis likes Canelo. Devin Haney likes Canelo. Ryan Garcia likes Canelo, even though he said Bevo won. You see, you can like a fighter. You understand what I'm saying? You can like a fighter and tell the truth. And apparently, again, haters out here, they want to buy the fighter. I don't believe in that. I believe in criticism and constructive criticism. It can be better. I don't believe in hating on fighters. I think that don't make no sense. So if you're not hating on Floyd Mayweather, oh, you sucking Floyd's balls. If you're not hating on Canelo, oh, you sucking on Canelo. But what about all y'all out there who are Wilder fans? I don't hate Wilder. But y'all actually believed all the stupid ass controversies that Wilder was bringing up. How about all you GGG fans? How about all of you Bud Crawford fans and Errol Spence fans? Why y'all have to disrespect the dudes like this, man? You want, you wanna be a fan of certain fighters, but you don't want other people to be fans of other fighters. Why is that? We're fans. We're supposed to be fans of fighters. We're supposed to like fighters. What's wrong with liking a fighter? But we got to keep it 100. The question posed by my boy, Fight Fan TV. He said, is Canelo still the face of boxing? Well, whether you like it or not, he is. Because we're talking about him. Are we not? We're talking about him for the last couple of days. He is the face of boxing. Just being real. Just being real. Just being 100% real. Money talks, bullshit walks. The man is still the face of boxing, whether we like it or not. Because Dimitri Bivol beat his ass, and nobody's talking about Bivol. Everybody's not on the Bivol train. They trying to talk about Canelo. They talking about Canelo this, Canelo that. How could Canelo, can this be put behind Canelo? Blah, 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 blah. He's the face of boxing. Why? He's the cash cow of boxing. He's the cash cow of boxing. Ain't nobody out there making the money Canelo making. Tyson Fury got some really good deals and everything, but he ain't making the money Canelo making. So it is what it is. I mean, Oscar De La Hoya was the face of boxing for a very long time. Even though Bernard Hopkins whooped his ass, he was still the face of boxing. He was the cash cow. Floyd Mayweather beat Oscar De La Hoya. Floyd Mayweather beat Oscar De La Hoya and became the face of boxing. Became the cash cow of boxing. Okay? Because Floyd was pound for pound number one. And when he beat Oscar De La Hoya, that's when he became the face of boxing. Right? Now, it'd be interesting. People say, well, Bivol beat Canelo, so Bivol should be the face of boxing, right? No, it don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? Because will Bivol be breaking in, $40 million, $50 million a fight? Will they be asking Bivol for that? No, they won't. Face of boxing is the guy who's the A side. Is the guy that call the shots. Canelo still got options. There are a lot of people still gunning for Canelo. Even though he's lost his second fight in his career, there's lots of people who still want to face him. He is the face of boxing. He is still the face of boxing. And I'm not trying, like I said before, I'm not a Canelo cocksucker. You guys know this. I'm not a Canelo apologist either. All right, I just tell it like it is. Same thing that happened with Oscar De La Hoya. I think he lost to Tito Trinidad. First of all, came back, became champion, lost to Shane Mosley. Still the face of boxing. Came back, he went on up to 154, dominated certain fighters. Came back, faced Shane Mosley in his last fight. Shane Mosley got the controversial decision. Still the face of boxing. Went up to middleweight. And got a decision he shouldn't have got against what the kid name? I forgot his name. At 160. And he did. You know why he got that unfair decision? Because he was the face of boxing. Went on to face Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins stopped his ass. Came out of retirement, beat Ricardo Mayorga. Still the face of boxing. Still the face of boxing. What does this mean? This means that Canelo, just like Oscar De La Hoya, is a cash cow of boxing. It's not going to change anytime soon. Felix Sturm, that's the name. Yes, Sweet Pea Fan 12. Shout out to Sweet Pea Fan 12. Canelo doesn't get the credit for his defense in the fight. Yes, Bivol was the better fighter, but Alvarez was not getting dominated. Sturm fight was close though. Well, he was being dominated, but he wasn't being hurt severely. Like, Bivol wasn't landing much punches on Canelo. He can put two punches together. So that's absolutely correct. He has great defense. Bivol even commented on that. How, his upper body movement and his slipping and sliding is really brilliant. Canelo got hella defense. But That's why I'm not worried about Canelo at 175. I'm not worried about Canelo going up to cruiserweight or heavyweight or whatever he wants to do. I'm not worried about Canelo like that because he has defense. You know, I don't ever see Canelo getting knocked out ever in boxing. That's one thing I can tell you. Nobody knocked out James Toney. Nobody's knocking out Canelo. You know, that's not the problem with Canelo. His problem is winning fights against movers, master movers. He gonna have a problem with that. Yes, Sweet Pea Pan. Felix Sturm is the guy I was talking about with Oscar De La Hoya. That's correct. Again, because Oscar De La Hoya was the cash cow of boxing, the face of boxing. Oscar De La Hoya ended up getting the decision over Felix Sturm he did not deserve to get because they were setting it up for a fight between him and Bernard Hopkins. They wanted him to face Bernard Hopkins. You understand? You know, boxing's a business, right? If you look at Dimitri Bivol versus Canelo Alvarez, they didn't. The establishment, the business, the business of boxing did not want Dimitri Bivol to win, and that's why the judges gave the first 4 rounds to Canelo. There's no way Canelo won the first 4 rounds. Bivol was in control of that fight from round 1 to round 12. Maybe you give Canelo round 9. Truly, if I'm being super duper honest with you guys, uh, if I'm being super duper honest with you guys, Canelo only won probably 1 round in that whole fight. It was a whitewash, just like Mayweather versus Canelo. You know what I mean? But yeah, for the haters of Canelo Alvarez, because we gotta handle y'all too and put this whole thing in perspective. They trying to say that Canelo's trash, Eddie Reynoso's trash, Canelo was cherry picking. He really didn't have real opposition, and this is a cherry pick going wrong. AK Sports TV said that. I mean, AK Sports TV, in a way, you are right. Canelo underestimated the challenge that was ahead of him. Didn't realize he did not have a very integral part of uh, the boxing he needed to beat this particular challenge. I think a lot of people thought that Bebo would get knocked out later on in the fight, but honestly speaking, I think that Canelo did definitely thought what he was doing was enough to beat Bebo, and I knew he didn't have what it took to beat Bebo because, like I said before, foot activity and stamina coming from that, and cardio and just the conditioning that he needed to deal with a Bebo, he did not have it. Um, did he test himself? Of course he tested himself. You know what I mean? He tested himself. He came up short, but he tested himself. But all fighters test themselves. That's why they. That's their mentality. They going in there to win, but they test themselves. Bevo tested himself against Canelo. You want to see what his skills was like. Sweet Pea Fan 12 says, "Who you picking? Buatsi versus Richards?" To be honest with you, I don't even know who those fighters are. I don't know who Buatsi is. I don't know who Richard is. I don't even know what weight class they are. Talk to me. Who are these people, and why should I care? CP Fan 12 says balance is necessary. Who is Buatsi and who is Richards? And why do I need to care about these dudes? Who are they? I don't know who they are. In the super middleweight division, there's a young Cuban fighter coming up, southpaw. I forgot what his name is. That I was looking at some highlights of him. He's sharpish, but he's on the rise. We'll see what happens with him. Who is Buatsi and who's Richard? Sweet Pea Fan 12. So the haters will say what they want to say. Me personally, I'm not into the hating thing. Even with Triple G, I try not to hate Triple G. I try to tell the truth about him. Um, I believe truth is better than just hating on people and being a negative fan that's not helping the sport of boxing, especially somebody who's the face of boxing. You try to have constructive criticism. I'm not into the hateration shit, and particularly because I've seen what has happened to certain fighters who have been unfairly judged. You know, great fighters like Roy Jones Jr., great fighters like what the fuck? Now they tell me my phone would overheat when it's charging, so I don't know what the fuck's going on here. Maybe there's water that got into my phone. Hold on a second. All right, we're here again. Yeah, you smash that like button, Sweet Pea Pan 12. Trying to see you here. Wow, this shit's not even letting me see you. Yeah, so the haters, they say what they say. Now, do the haters have some points in what they're saying? Yeah, they do have some points, but I truly believe that the way how now they go into a fighter, like they saying Eddie Reynoso is trash. Eddie Reynoso is not trash. Eddie Reynoso is not a trash trainer. To bring up a guy who's multiple world champion, multiple weight world championship, when Eddie Reynoso brought for other world champions, you can't say they trash. That's stupid. Can you say they're limited trainers? Absolutely. Eddie Reynoso admitted that African American fighters are very difficult. So, especially of the pedigree of Shakur and Mayweather. So he's saying that he needs help. So I agree with that. But you can't say that they're trash. That's stupid. That's what I'm talking about with haters. They're out to hurt the reputation of fighters. They're out to destroy because they hate. I'm not that kind of guy. Okay, I'll tell you the truth, but I'm not gonna hate on a fighter because I mean the fighter's been doing things that I'll never do in my lifetime. So why would I hate on a fighter? And there's nothing wrong with liking Canelo. They're going in on Devin Haney, Gervonta Tank Davis. Well, if you're gonna go in on Devin Haney, Gervonta Tank Davis, then you got to go in on Shakur Stevenson, who borrowed things from Canelo. Okay, you got to go in on Jamal Charlo, who admires Canelo. Demetrius Andre, who admires Canelo. As much as he shit talk and say you a bitch and you ducking me and all of that, he's just shit talking. But really, he admires what Canelo is doing, and he'll even say it in the media. David Benavidez. David Benavidez don't hate Canelo. He likes Canelo. He wanted Canelo to win against Bivol. Didn't win against Bivol, but of course, these guys, just because they want to fight with a fighter, don't mean they hate the fighter. They want an opportunity to showcase their skills and show the world what they're really about. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to face the best. Canelo was the best. Benavidez would tell you Canelo is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, but just before Bivol beat him, he would tell you that. Charlotte would tell you the same thing. Andre would tell you the same thing. Okay? Clarissa Shields. Are you saying that all these people, now y'all can shit talk, that's okay, but if we're going to be real now, we're not going to bullshit people. Are you telling me Clarissa Shields, she's a monkey? That's what 78 Sports TV was saying. I know you're just talking shit, but nonetheless, he's saying she's a monkey and she's defending Canelo because he's defending Canelo because she's saying no, you can't disregard all the work this guy put in. All right, and was he daring to be great? Fuck yes, he was daring to be great, but not in the context of nobody else was daring to be great like Canelo's doing. That's the bullshit. That now the Canelo fanboys be saying in the industry and otherwise. There are other people who are trying to be great. There are other people who are taking risks in boxing. That's where I disagree. But was he taking a chance? Was he taking a risk? Was it a hell of a choice to pick to go up against? Absolutely. Just like he would be taking a hell of a choice and a risk to face Jamal Charlo or Demetrius Andre or David Benavidez. Okay, Dimitri Bivol ain't no joke. I said that. I said out of all the fighters that Canelo could face, Dimitri Bivol is, one of the toughest ones you can have. I think the only guy that's tougher than Dimitri Bivol will be Demetrius Andrade, possibly. You know, and he jumped up there and he took on Dimitri Bivol, and exactly what I thought would happen happened. Okay, but one thing you can't take from him, just like one thing you can't take from Oscar Valdez, he faced him. Right? He faced him. Remember, it's who you face, who you beat. He faced him. He got whitewashed, but he faced him. And what that helps, not only us the fans, but also Canelo himself realizes, where am I at in my boxing? Where am I deficient in my boxing? This is feedback time. If he's honest with himself and honest with his camp and honest with Eddie Rosso, he'll know where he's at. He's only 31 years old. He got about 6 years still left in the tank. He could still beat more world champions than Floyd Mayweather. He could do a lot of things in the sport of boxing and still make history, but he has to address his foot activity. He has to address that issue. And he has to bring on additional help to his team to take it to the next level. That's all I'm saying. He has to, in my opinion. This is just my opinion, but it's a constructive opinion. I'm not there to hate on Canelo. I'm not that kind of guy. Canelo's done a hell of a job. He faced the number one guys in his division. He should have still faced Demetrius Andrade, and he should have faced Jamal Charlo, and he should have faced David Benavidez, okay? But he didn't. He still faced a world champion. He still faced Dimitri Bivol. He still faced a 175-pounder. You know what I'm saying? And arguably the best 175-pounder of the 175-pound division. But time will show. Okay? All right? He's been facing some of the top guys in the divisions. So I can't just come straight out and say he cherry picking, but I can say that he did not face Jamal Charlo when Jamal Charlo was his mandatory. I can say that. That's factual. He did not face Demetrius Andrade when he had the opportunity to be undisputed and said he wanted to be undisputed at 160. He did not face him. When Demetrius Andrade came to the post-fight press conference after Canelo had beaten Billy Joe Saunders and asked for a fight, Canelo said, "Who did you beat? You faced nobody." When Demetrius Andrade continued onwards, well, let's make a fight. I mean, the only way I could face somebody is if I face you or somebody of note. Everybody else is ducking me. Let's make the fight happen. He said, "You were a horrible fighter." When his father got mad and said, "What you talking about? He's a horrible fighter. Make the fight happen." He said, "Get the fuck out of here." Isn't that what Canelo said? These are facts. This is not my opinion. I'm not hating on Canelo. This is what he said. And he repeated it in different press conferences that Demetrius Andrade is a horrible fighter. Meaning, I ain't facing him. That fight is not entertaining as far as I'm concerned. Meanwhile, in polls all over the internet, people want Canelo to face Demetrius Andrade. He says, I want to give you the fights you want to see. And his fans are saying, we want Demetrius Andrade. And what does Canelo do? He does not face Demetrius Andrade. He goes up and faces Sergey Kovalev. Just like everybody's like, what, where did this come from, right? But he always wanted to face Kovalev. So fair enough, he got his fight with Kovalev. Kovalev boxed brilliantly, but unfortunately for him, ran out of gas. Part of that is due to Canelo landing body shots and sharp counters and bringing pressure on him. And the other part was that he was in a really, really tough fight, not but 2 months before, maybe less than 2 months before. And he really didn't have time to recoup. And on top of that, he was training, right? So, fair enough. That is a point. That's why Kovalev didn't really look like himself, right? But even saying that, he beat a 175-pounder, showing that he could fight 175-pounders and beat them. Kovalev didn't knock him out. You know, Kovalev tried to, but he got countered sharply, right? Now, my point anyway is, he went up to 175. He did his thing. I gave him his credit for going up to 175 facing Kovalev. But here's the thing. After that, you come down to 168, and you're repeatedly fighting guys who, okay, they got their belts and stuff and Benavidez, but why is it you fought Yildirim instead of Benavidez? Why did you fight Yildirim instead of Benavidez? Oh, well, he'd have lost the WBC title if he didn't face Yildirim because that was part of the thing. No, 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 no. Canelo requested Yildirim as his mandatory. That's the truth. Just like how Canelo requested the franchise championship belt. He requested it. Maurice Suleiman's mouth. Okay? So, he could have faced David Benavidez instead of Yildirim, who was coming off a loss, not a world champion, not a former world champion. He could have faced David Benavidez. These are the things that are facts. Okay? This is what the haters keep on repeating to us, but then they flavor it with he was cherry picking, and he was ducking and dodging, and he was and he wasn't facing real champions. He wasn't facing the real guys, the real threats. When in fact, the truth be told, he wasn't facing who you wanted him to face at the time. But the facts do line up and say he should have. I mean, if he really talking about challenging himself and he's really talking about making history, he should have faced David Benavidez. Because that was his rhetoric, right? So I get where the haters make sense about Canelo in the sense that they make sense about, okay, he did not face this guy, he didn't face that guy, and this was the situation around it. But where they go wrong is saying that he's not facing good fighters. That's not true. He faced champ after champ, and each of those champs were good fighters. They were good fighters. Callum Smith was the number one 175 pounder in the division. Now, other people expected Callum Smith to do more, but I knew Canelo was going to chop him down because styles make fights, and Callum Smith's really a range fighter. He's not an inside fighter. So I knew Canelo was going to gut him. Y'all rating up David Benavidez and blowing them up, right? I mean, Benavidez throws more combinations, and he does throw at mid-range too. But he easy work for Canelo. Him and Callum Smith was easy work. That's easy work. That's Canelo's style is built on fighting at mid-range. And Benavidez don't particularly have the quickest feet in the world. He's much more, he's flat-footed, so I just don't see. I mean, he can get up on his toes, don't get me wrong, but I don't see Benavidez doing to Canelo what Bivol did, like a lot of people were saying. I think, though, that Demetrius Andrade would run a number on Canelo. Okay? He would run a number on Canelo. Just thinking from a boxing perspective and the foot activity that Demetrius Andrade can produce, as well as, again, his counter-punching ability, the southpaw stance, and all of that stuff. Okay? So, I don't know about Jermell Charlo. I don't know if Jamal would beat him or not. I can't say. I'm on the fence with that one. But Jamal is a sharp puncher. He loves to engage, so you never know. You never know. I would love to see that fight as well. And we may get all those fights. Because Canelo's a guy, he's going to get around to facing all those guys. You can be guaranteed of that. Win or lose or draw. And, but the thing about it is, which I'm kind of sad about, is he's not getting the credit for beating a Caleb Plant. This was not a one-sided fight. Caleb Plant on BT Sports was winning that fight. And if Caleb Plant only knew how to, I don't know if you'd have got the decision from the judges, but if he had only known how to address himself once he got knocked down, but he didn't know how to do that. That's the major thing. But it was a very competitive fight, and Caleb was doing his thing. And Canelo will never get the credit for beating Caleb Plant. Blue Blood Sports TV gives him the credit for beating Caleb Plant, but he's not getting the credit. Caleb Plant's a better boxer than David Benavidez, and sadly, because he's gotten stopped, people are going to feel that David Benavidez could do better against Canelo than Caleb Plant could, and I just don't think so. Caleb Plant hardly got touched. Benavidez is gonna get touched. Um, Billy Joe Saunders, I overrated him. Uh, I was wrong, and I changed my opinion once I saw that Billy Joe Saunders didn't show up for the face-off. I realized this guy's just a punk. He's a clown, and he gonna get slept. And he did get slept. Got beat the fuck up because he didn't have the confidence to be Canelo. He was just talking the talk, but he couldn't walk the walk. And he was a big disappointment to me because I thought that fight was going to be good. I said this is going to be a 50-50 fight going into the fight. And then this asshole was trying to find a way out of the fight. And I realized this dude is shit. He's nothing. Okay? No disrespect to Billy Joe Saunders because he's a hell of a fighter, a hell of a trainer. But he had no confidence. You had no confidence he was going to beat Canelo. He's full of shit, man. You bitched out of that fight. You didn't even go to the press conference. You bitched out of that fight. And you're never going to box again. You're a clown. You know, in respects to that. Now, having said that about Billy Joe Saunders, let me just say, let me clarify myself. The dude's a hell of a fighter. He can fight. He can fight. It's sad because he talk a lot of talk, but he can't back his shit up. He can't back his shit up when it comes to that level of fighting. You know, I remember he talked himself into the Gennady Golovkin fight, and then he worked his way out of it. I remember he talked his way into the Demetrius Andre fight, and then he talked his way out of it, or sabotaged it. He sabotaged it because he afraid to lose. He was afraid to lose. This guy a punk. And you know why he was afraid to lose? Because he always having these fat camps. He's always in a fat camp. Okay, put on too much weight, not discipline. In between fights, blowing up to 100, 200 pounds and stuff like that. Okay, that's the problem with Billy Joe Saunders. That's why he had to go up to 168. Okay, Demetrius Andre keep himself in shape all year round. He's the real deal. He would have beaten Billy Joe's ass, now that I know that, because of his indiscipline. Billy Joe doesn't have no discipline. No discipline whatsoever. Got mad skills, but no discipline. You can't have that at that level. So, Saunders was a disappointment to me. Talk all that junk, and can't back up shit. And, you know, people saying Saunders made a great effort. Shut the fuck up. Okay? Make no great effort. But Caleb Plant and Callum Smith were good wins. They were good wins. David Benavidez should have gotten his shot, in my opinion. Even though he lost the title on the scales, why would you face a guy in Yildirim who not only did he fight like he didn't deserve that shot at the title, but also in addition, and that payday, but in addition, he lost the fight against Anthony Durrell. Why is he a mandatory and he lost the fucking fight against Anthony Durrell? Oh, it was a close fight and it looked like he won in blood. Shut up, man. He lost. He really lost. He lost that fight. Durrell pulled it out. He ain't supposed to get no shot at no damn title ahead of David Benavidez. This is the nonsense that the WBC was doing. Like you're trying to protect David Benavidez or something. If David Benavidez is supposed to get his ass beat, let the kid get his ass beat so he can learn from it. David Benavidez is a tough-skinned kind of guy. All right? David Benavidez is a tough guy. His father wants him to get the experience. Let him get the experience. Let him know where he stands. Everybody in boxing talk about, you know, the hypocrisy in boxing. You know what I mean? Everybody in boxing talking about, oh, fighters today, they so cautious. They want to protect Then when you get a fighter who wants to go out there and show that he can win and he can compete with the best, and he's challenging himself, y'all say, oh, no. We're going to protect that fighter. We don't want him going out there and getting his ass beat. Which is it? Which is it? You got to make up your damn mind. Okay? Devin Haney was never afraid to face Vasily Lomachenko. Oh, well,
Suleiman says, "Oh, well, we need to protect Devin Haney. He's too young, and blah 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 blah."
It's bullshit because Devin Haney wanted it. Devin Haney wanted it. And if you get beat by Vasily Lomachenko, so what? Vasily Lomachenko's a legend. But let the kid test his skills. Shakur Stevenson, two-time world champion, three-time world champion, age is 24 years old. Three-time world champion. 24 years old. Okay? Y'all ain't saying nothing about Shakur now. You have to let the fighters. Devin Haney's what? He's what? I think Devin Haney's like 22, 23 years old. He's a world champion. He's about to become undisputed at that age. Nobody's saying no now. I don't hear Mursi Suleiman saying, "Oh, no, he's too young for that. He can't. Kambosos, He's not saying that now. Kambosos is like 28 years old. Okay? So let's stop with excuses and let the fighters fight. Let them do what they want. Let them do what they do.
Well, they say, sometimes you have to save the fighter from themselves.
No. You need to give the fighter what they want. They will make or break their future and their destiny. Alright? You can advise them, but you give them what they want. Rolly Romero is facing Tank. Tank is way above Rolly Romero's level. Way. Rolly Romero getting himself in shape so he can face Tank. Okay? Because Mayweather's not going to stop you from getting what you want. This is what you want. He can make it happen for you. You look at Floyd. Floyd's not against Tank. Floyd is not against Adrian Broner, and he never will be. Okay? Never will be. But Adrian Broner and Tank need to understand that you have to push yourself. You have to work hard. Push yourself to be the best. And Floyd went through the baptism by fire to get where he's at. You don't just get to where he's at without trials and tribulations. Emmanuel Burton, Jesus Chavez, Diego Corrales, Angel Manfredi, Jose Luis Castillo, Chop Corley. These are tests. He had some heavy tests. Even the Justin Juku, who's a durable guy, last minute change. What's the kid name? Sosas, who they was saying he was supposed to get out of there in the early rounds, was durable, mocking him, go all the way, 12 rounds. All right, that was at lightweight. You got to get tested, man. So for Canelo, I don't understand why he didn't face Andrade and Charlo. This would have saved him a lot of problems because he would know he had to work on some stuff after those fights. And maybe if he had worked on those fights, remember those fights were way back when, he should have faced Andrade in 2000 and I believe 15. He had the opportunity. He ended up facing Liam Smith. And then that was 7 years ago. And Charlo was, I believe, in 2017 or 2018. He had the opportunity to face Charlo and Andrade again. 2017, I think it was. That was 5 years ago. This all have been clarified, and he would have tweaked his game, and he would have been at the top of boxing like he's supposed to be. All right. You have to go through the fire. You have to get past certain things. You have to be able to refine your skills. You have to be able to work on your skills. And the only way that's going to happen is if you go through the fire. You know, Aristotle Lara fight should have told him so much. It should have taught him, man, I need to work on this. I need to work on this. I need to work on my feet. And he did make some adjustments, but still, you got a lot of work on. Still. Um. So yeah, the haters, trying to trash Canelo, trying to trash Eddie Reynoso. They talking about all the drug cheating and all this stuff. But the truth be told, with Canelo, the only issue he has is continuous activity with his feet, and needs another trainer to take him to the next level. He needs that. Now, I truly believe that. Um, Eddie Reynoso and Sheppo and whoever else is working with them is not enough. It's not enough. And you could be loyal and still pull in somebody else in your camp to strengthen it. I heard some people saying that Frank Sanchez is not a true heavyweight. He is a true heavyweight. Frank's a true heavyweight. And good sparring work he gets with Frank, and no doubt about it, I'm sure that's good stuff. But he also needs to literally run drills. He needs to run drills to get his foot cardio up. He needs to run them, and he should be running them all now as we speak. Um, but yeah, the haters, they try to say these things about Canelo. I think that while they have some merit behind what they're saying, I truly believe that Canelo is a fighter who uh, is damn difficult. He's a very good fighter, and there was a reason he was pound for pound number one, and not just his resume, but also his all-around skills. He has tremendous skills, tremendous defense, varied offense, very smart fighter, but his limitation is his movement, just like James Toney. But he's better than James Toney. Some people say, well, James Toney would beat Canelo. I don't know about that. I don't know if James Toney would beat Canelo, but what I do know is Canelo Canelo uses similar things, and he has similar attributes to James Toney. Tank, Javante Tank Davis, actually has worked on his foot movement. He was getting lazy. He wasn't treating his weight properly. He wasn't as focused and dialed in. But Floyd again helped Tank by making him have to box more. And even when he boxed Pitbull, which I thought was really great, with one hand, I thought that was good because he showed his quick movement and his activity with boxing. And I think Tank's going to just put on a boxing clinic and then get Rolly Romero out of there. He's going to knock him out. But first he's going to have to box him a little bit. And I think Javante is getting more and more to be an all-round fighter. I don't think I never thought he was an all-round fighter. Because like Adrian Broner and Canelo, he didn't move around the ring too much. But now his foot cardio is getting better. So we don't know, man. We're going to see how beautiful Tank really is in time. But it's thanks to Floyd. Floyd tried to keep him in shape, try to keep him ready for whatever situation he may present himself to. Phenomenal fighters again. So what I'm saying is, Canelo is a great fighter, Hall of Famer, and you can't take that from him. You can't take certain things from him. Eddie Reynoso and Sheppo, they did an excellent job with him, but I do believe that they need some help now. It's not like Canelo hasn't faced black fighters before, but almost every single black fighter he has faced, whether it's Shane Mosley, Austin Trout, Aristotle Lara, Floyd Mayweather, Danny Jacobs, all those black fighters gave him a hell of a fight. They were very competitive fights. From the Trout fight to the Lara fight to the Jacobs fight, And to the Cotto fight, Cotto's black as well. To the Floyd fight, well, the Floyd fight wasn't competitive, but they're all competitive fights. So it's not like Canelo, and this is why I can't understand this. I can't understand why Canelo wouldn't face Demetrius Andrade. He just came off the Jacobs fight. Andrade was just the perfect fight for him because Jacobs had shown a lot of skill and ability and stuff. I don't know. I mean, the thing about it though would be Andrade might have Canelo moving around the ring, which is something that Canelo he would have had difficulty with. All right, because Andre will pull you into the ropes and bait you into traps and stuff, and then he might fight you in the center of the ring. Then he might walk you down. He mixes it up. Anyways, man, that's what I got for you guys. I am what you need. You watch my channel. Talked a lot about Canelo this week because Canelo is the face of boxing, whether you like it or not. That's just the way how that works. Um, he's still gonna be the face of boxing for a while. He might take a couple losses in his future, or maybe not, but he is the face of boxing. Like I said, there are certain fighters who I think could beat Canelo, and I mentioned them, and he's gone through some of them. Uh, Caleb Plant. I thought Bevo would beat him from a long time ago as well. I thought Jamal Charlo might have a chance, and I also thought that Demetrius Andrade definitely has a chance to beat Canelo. Of course, we have some other names like David Benavidez and so on. They're names in boxing, but I think the guys that could beat Canelo, Canelo's actually faced some of them. I even said Billy Joe Saunders might have a chance. That dude let me down, man. That dude, man, he bitched out of that fight. So it's sad because Billy Joe Saunders, I thought really had the skills and abilities to give Canelo a good fight. Caleb Plant did his thing. So, you know, I always thought Caleb Plant could do something, and he did do something. You know, but Canelo got the victory. So kudos to Canelo on that. Um, but when you look at the guys in the horizon who could actually beat Canelo, I think Badou Jack would be a problem. Badou Jack is an inside fighter. Badou Jack would be a problem against Canelo. But I heard Badou Jack is moving up to cruiserweight, so he's not even a light heavyweight anymore. So he's out of the equation. So you don't have to worry about him. So I mean, in a given field out there of guys that could actually beat Canelo, we really only got two right now that I could put my money on and say, yeah, these guys will beat Canelo. It would be Bevo and it would be Demetrius Andrade. I can't say it for David Benavidez. And I really, Charlo's like, up and down. It could be a 50-50 fight. That's a competitive fight. I don't know how that would actually go down. Because Charlo, he's showing me he can fight a little bit on the inside, but he a little bit weak. He a little bit small in the ass in the sense that, yeah, he's a big dude, but he really ain't been fighting super middleweight, so we can't really know. And he has sort of had difficulty with some of the fighters at middleweight who are not really known as highly esteemed elite fighters, and he has had some difficulty with them. So he's kind of up and down. And then the way how Charles behaving, you don't know if he really is too comfortable right now, and I don't know if he really mentally if he's in a place to beat Canelo. So I'm not sure with Charlo. It's an up and down thing. It's been Charlo really would want to have that fight. I'm pretty sure, but I don't know how much his hunger is anymore. His younger brother, he's insanely hungry to become great and to do great things. But his younger brother also has some deficiencies in his boxing, so it's like these boys are bad, but they kind of deficient in their boxing. So it's kind of up and down with the Charlos right now, But I would love to see Canelo versus Charlo. That's a name that's been popping around for a long time since 154. I would love to see it. So it's a fight I'd love to see. I can't say if Charlo would win or lose. I don't know. I really don't know. It would be an exciting fight though. Um, but yeah, the two fighters in boxing right now around Canelo's weight class that I think beat him straight up, I can tell you that for a fact, would be Bevo and Andre. And it doesn't matter what weight class you want to go at. If you want to go 175 or you want to go 168 with both guys, they still gonna beat his ass, guaranteed. I don't think there's anybody else out there I think that could beat Canelo right now, but you never know. Maybe somebody has the perfect game plan, you know. But I don't think there's anybody else out there that could beat Canelo. John Ryder's been hot for the last couple of days, though. John Ryder, he beat Danny Jacobs recently. But I don't think John Ryder would beat Canelo either. Very big. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a matchup like that. Um, but yeah, Canelo ain't no fucking joke, y'all. It's just like, people talk about Lomachenko and stuff, but Lomachenko proved to you he not no joke. He's limited, but he's not no joke. Canelo's a limited fighter, and it's not because of his. He can do it all. He can box on the back foot, front foot. Mostly a mid-range fighter, but he got a decent jab and everything. Good head, upper body movement. All of that. Canelo's got it all, but he don't have sustainability. He get tired quick, so he has to work on foot cardio. Run them foot cardio drills. Stop being a lazy motherfucker and run those foot cardio drills. That's what you gotta do. Gotta do that, Canelo. Otherwise, you're gonna be beaten by certain fighters. We ain't gonna even have to think about it. We're just like, you're gonna get beat by that dude. That's how that works. I'm what you need. I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace.